Hey everyone, it's me, Vic. Today I wanted to talk about Elgato Studio Beta. Now, specifically, I'm using this on a Mac Mini M4 with 32 gigabytes of unified RAM. So keep in mind, unified RAM is going to be something that's working with your GPU as well as your overall system. So it's not just dedicated RAM. Um, that being said, there might be some limitations. We're going to get started though, because I do want to say this particular software is amazing. All right, I kind of already have it running in the background, right? Oh wait, that was supposed to be later. All right, first things first, when you first start up your Elgato Studio Beta on Mac. Yeah, so like if you just wanted to record and you didn't want to stream or anything like that, this program is amazing. There are some features that are going to be different than what you currently see in 4K Capture Utility on, for example, Windows, but I do kind of wish there were some of those features on here. So first things first, general. It's going to ask you for personalization. Do you want dark, light, or your system? If you set your system up to dynamic, it's going to behave the same way. Now, I know this has been out for a little bit, and here is the software version I am testing out, 1.0.0 in parentheses 171. There was a quick update from the firmware when I first started it up with my 4KX, and then the software had like a quick update. I'm not sure if maybe it was just refreshing because it's still on 1.0.0, unless the 171 is newer and I just missed it. But I did see it do an update. So you can always check for updates by clicking this button here. You can automatically install updates or disable it. You can change from beta to release, which I think is really cool right now. I don't know if that's going to be in the future though. And then there's the device. Now the device is going to show what device you have connected. In this case, I'm using the Mac Mini M4 like I had mentioned. So I have an external capture card connected to my Mac Mini. The only internal cards are really going to be for Windows PCs, and that is, for example, the 4K Pro. The software UI is identical in Windows as well as in Mac, and I can test this out with my PC having the same outcome and same UI on my Windows. So it's pretty cool. Obviously, it's going to tell you your serial number and what firmware version you're on. Now you can change your recording settings here. So max resolution is going to be 4K for this card, right? There is a matrix that Elgato provides for this. It's in their support, and you're able to see what you can pass through and what you can capture. Keep in mind with max and HDR settings, this card alone only does tone mapping for HDR. So if you are going to play games in HDR, make sure when you have an HDR monitor. If you are wanting to do 4K content, for example, with a PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 5 Pro, Xbox Series X, or the new Switch 2, which I'm excited for. I'm waiting for next weekend anyways, right? Because that's when I'm going to really be testing it out. Um, I'm excited. But you can change that to either 720p, 1080p. It says full HD here, which, by the way, I do have a video on my YouTube channel that is going to show you with Hogwarts Legacy that you can hit 240 hertz with this card, or 240 FPS? I don't know. It was recording 240. The thing about Max is when I did that, it started doing that like weird slow-mo thing. So like if you don't want that, you're gonna have to change that after the recording is done, which I found really odd because it's behaving like the way iOS does. I haven't been with a Mac experience in maybe about 3 years, right? And so it's weird to see a lot of new things coming through with Mac. And some things I could live without. But anyways, neither here nor there. We're talking about the studio beta here. So you can do it 1440p. Honestly, I don't do this, but if you are going to do a 21:9, I can tell you that you can record in ultra wide, and usually you'll see it either go in 1440p or 4K depending on your specs, right? So like for example, it's going to mimic whatever your monitor is. So if your monitor is a 21:9, more than likely you're going to see it do a 1440p. You can also change your recording path. There's the photo library, which I would not put it in a photo library. I like custom, so I'm like, I know where I want my video to go, and that's where I'm going to tell it to go. As far as for the Elgato Studio, I created that folder, and only because I was mimicking what I had on my Windows PC, just for consistency on my end. You can do whatever you want, label your folder however you want, and just set it to go there. File name prefix, automatically on Mac OS, it's going to say capture. The interesting thing is on Windows, it says Elgato Studio. So hence the folder Elgato Studio. Now, every time I try to change capture to Elgato Studio, it just does a little weird, funny thing. So I just left it as capture. You can change your file format from date and time or to incremental. And then obviously, if you're not happy with any of these settings or you feel something is not set up the way you want it to, you can always click on Restore Default. And of course, if you need help, you can reach out to their support center. You can join the Reddit, which is for the beta right now, and you can join their Discord server, which you'll probably find a lot of people that community help that are in there that are very helpful. Just keep in mind that their Discord server is a community server, so you're going to see a lot of people, MOTMs, MOTYs, and a lot of other community members out there who are going to help you. All right, that being said, let's go ahead and jump over to the sidebar. So first things you're going to notice is the UI, right? Here's your little folder, there's your recording, there's your screenshot, and it's going to show you what card you're on. And what's cool is you have this amazing little icon right there, and it tells you what format. So you can come here, you can drop down, it tells you your audio input is HDMI. So for those who are doing it in analog, for example, where you have your controller connected to your headset, connected to a Chat Link Pro, connected to your capture card, right? Then you're going to have your party chats come through. Remember that it's not capturing your microphone from your headset. Only your buddies can hear you through that. There is no dual audio where your mic is being picked up like as if you were streaming. You will always need a separate microphone when it comes to streaming, connected directly to your streaming PC. But then you'll see your card here, and it tells me the recording is up to 4K. And it tells me my recording format currently is 1080p full HD. And that's because the original Nintendo Switch is only capable of 1080p 60. So I'm very glad that we were able to show you this. Now I can actually pop on my PS5 Pro and you might see something different, right? And we can do that. As a matter of fact, let's do that. Hold on. I had to grab my controller real quick. So you should hear the beep. And we're going to see it change signals real quick here. Might take a moment, but I did turn on my PS5 Pro. Too fast. All right, so now we see that it says 4K here, right? So like, let's just say I popped in Final Fantasy Rebirth, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth here, which by the way is an amazing game, right? I'm just gonna open it up to wherever I was, at least on console. So now we can see that if I were to record this, it would record it in 4K. Now we're gonna talk about the sidebar here, which is going to be video. It says your HDMI color range, your HDMI input EDID mode, your tone mapping. So if this game I don't think has HDR. If it does, I just never paid attention to it. But any game that you're playing in HDR, you can just turn on HDR tone mapping and it'll automatically do it for you. Clearly, I don't have this in HDR right now, but if I wanted to, let's do that. So you would go to screen and video on, your PlayStation device. And I'm gonna just turn it to always on, right? Now, while it's doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and turn on HDR tone mapping. So you see how it changes? It's pretty cool. I don't, oh wait, I meant to do that. Now, if I wanted to go into settings here, right? Wait, wrong button. We can go into system and options, graphics. I don't see anything for HDR. Do you all? Yeah, there's no HDR in this game, so nothing changed. Let's pull up one that might have HDR. I am pretty sure Spider-Man does. Here we go. So given that HDR is automatically on, and you see how things are changing at the top there, right? And I'll point it out right here, how things are changing. That's because it's taking in all of the information that I told it to in the game setting, right? So, like, there's graphics mode. I turned off 120 hertz just because I wanted to see, like, the cinematic experience. But, yeah, so wait, I need to go to graphics mode. So I can change it to performance if I wanted to. I could turn it to 120 hertz, and then I could actually get 120 from this game. Um, we're just gonna hit continue though, right? And then I think from here I can probably go to settings, go to visual, HDR is on. So this is the best way that it's gonna tone map on Macs. And I wanted to demonstrate that because we know that there's no way to do the P010 in OBS. So if you have HDR on your console, right, you can tone map it this way. If I didn't want it tone mapped, it's going to look washed out. So just keep that in mind when it comes to using Macs. All right, so that demo of the game is good, right? I enjoy Spider-Man, by the way. We're gonna go back to our Nintendo Switch settings, which is gonna drop it down to 60 FPS here, right? We just gotta wait for this thing to turn off or power down or whatever. And given that I'm not doing HDR on a Nintendo Switch, right? Is the switcher working? I might have to give it a minute, y'all. Hold on. Okay, now it's on. All right, so from here, right, we're gonna actually talk about some settings real quick. And it's the same thing that you would do on your PlayStation or your Xbox Series X. So I'm going to go to TV settings. Do you see where it says RGB range? So the reason why I have mine as automatic and bypass right here. So on my Switch, I have it as automatic. On, I think, my PlayStation 5 Pro, I have it as full. But I do bypass because it's going to mimic whatever the console is telling it. Now, on the HDMI input EDID mode, right? This is really going to come down to your display. We'll just go into my save file from last night. I'm probably going to die though. All right, so I have it set to internal based off of whatever is hooked up to the console. But if I wanted it to behave the way that my display is going to be without screen tearing, I'm going to put display. Usually I keep it internal because it prevents screen tearing for me, but so does display. I have not tested out Mix. I mean, we could try it, see what it does. It's a first. Real live reactions, that's mixed. So I don't know if it's supposed to be adaptable or not, but personally, I've learned internal really works for me, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Or display. Now, on the custom EDID mode, right? If I have any specifics that I want to have settings at, this is where this comes in handy. See where it says 1080p for Steam Deck, 1080. So like if I had a Steam Deck Connect, it would be doing this. If I was doing a mobile device, I could do my, for example, iPhone at 1080p 120. If I wanted to do the 3440 by 1440 or just 1440p HDR, right? I could select these 1440p without HDR, 1080p with HDR, and then 3440 by 1440, and then 1280 by 800 for Steam Deck. So there's quite a few options for Steam. Well, actually, a couple of options for Steam Deck. And then there's obviously going to be the 4KX where it says 2560 by 1080. This is going to be the ultra wide mode. So right now my PC is waiting on replacement RAM, so I can't really demonstrate the 4K, what is it, the 2160 by 1080, but it basically, so the cool thing about my ultra wide monitor, right, like it can do the black bars on the side, but when I am playing in 21 by 9, which is really cool because the card, when I'm doing dual PC, forces my gaming rig to go into 21 by 9 when I'm using this card to record, especially with Hogwarts Legacy. So you're gonna see one where maybe you didn't see the 21 by 9 because I didn't want to record it in that. I tried to push the bar to do 32 by 9, but it was way smaller. But yeah, this is basically going to be helpful for those who have a 21 by 9 monitor. And then there's going to be the 1080p standard, and of course the 14, what is it, a 3440 by 1440 HDR. So you have quite a variety of items here, but I turn it off because honestly it adapts to whatever my console is. I primarily use a capture card for my console or when I'm recording PC game recording. And then that's it. So the other cool thing is from here, audio input. I can change this to either HDMI. Oh wait, it didn't pop it out on the side. But anyways, if you click on the drop down box, which I find interesting that it's not doing it drop down right here, it lets you choose HDMI or analog. So that's a really cool thing when it comes to this particular little sidebar here. And honestly, that's all of the features that you're going to need, right? I mean, you have your volume slider right here. You have your screenshots right here. So it just took a screenshot of that. And then we could technically record this right now, right here. So the one thing that I would like to give feedback to Elgato on is this recording outline. I think it should go away. We see here that this expands and we see the recording. So I don't really think that having the recording border around it is ideal, but at least you know you're recording because it's in a little red outline, right? And that's pretty cool. And that's going to be it for the Elgato Studio Beta. Like, it's a very simple UI. It is very intuitive. The things that I want to talk about that I would like to see as features in the future is choosing your GPU. Um, you don't even have that on Windows. I can tell you that I would also like to see, as far as the encoding options, like AV1 on there. I would like to see for Mac choosing hardware versus software encoding. So those are the things that I would like to see in a future update. But other than that, this this particular UI and the way that it records is fairly great. The only other little hiccup I've ran into here, just right here with the recording, is say I'm playing, for example, Hogwarts Legacy or, something on my PS5 Pro where the cutscenes are, I'm recording 4K and then it drops down to like 1080p because of a cutscene. When that happens, the recording stops. And I wish it wouldn't. I wish it would just maintain what it's supposed to maintain. And I think it's because of the way the frame rates are changing on the console or on the system. And so if we could probably get that sorted out, I think that we have a really great recording studio from Elgato. The Elgato Studio Beta is, I can't speak today. The Elgato Studio Beta is an amazing piece of software. And that's what I like about Elgato, right? That's why I always keep using their products and their software, is because they do listen to everybody. They do take these things into feedback. And I do say that they make a lot of changes. I know they have their own roadmap, and I know that they wanted to make things simple, and this is very simple. You really just come in here, open it up, hit the record button. I mean, if you wanted to tweak these little settings that we talked about, you can, right? But it's a very, very simple UI. There's no complications. You can see your sound levels up here, which I think is really great. You're not adding a microphone, which is even better. So it's really just picking up your game audio. And then there's channel 1 and channel 2 for those who don't know how audio channels work. And that's usually like in stereo format. That's why you see 2 bars. But I wanted to say thank you for taking the time to watch the video. And if you like what you see, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, everybody.